everybody, I am outside, got my kids on the bus for summer school, got the baby fed, got my toddler fed, got my coffee made, got my hair fixed, and now I'm out here in the garden, and I wanted to give you guys a little tour of what's going on. A lot has changed in the last week or so, and so I'm going to show you guys around, and this one will be a little longer than the previous ones because I finally figured out how to get iMovie to let you do more than 15 minutes. And I'll explain that later in the video for anyone that might be struggling with that. But for now, let's get to the garden. Over here we have our lettuce patch. You can see my spinach right there. I actually came out here and pretty much picked all of it yesterday. It started to bolt. Now I did pick the tops off. I'm going to see if that works for spinach. I've never tried that. I know it works for basil and herbs, so I'm assuming it might work for spinach, but I really don't know. So we're gonna see. I'll let you know. The spinach I had yesterday tasted fine, so it had literally just started to put out seeds, and I came out here and plucked them off, so it wasn't bitter or anything like that. But this is how the lettuce patch is looking. I did come out here and thin this out, and now it's really getting full, especially like those 3 rows over there. And this one, I mean, this row is so pretty. That looks like something off of a magazine cover up close. The camera's not going to do it any justice, but that's so pretty. So pretty. This Ragged Jack kale, I planted this on a whim, just like hoping it might pop up. And it's so cute. It's like 8 inches tall, so it's definitely not big enough to harvest off of, but it's so pretty. Look at the dew on those leaves. My potato patch is looking rather lush still. I'm starting to see a little disease on the bottom of the plants. They have flowered, so now I'm just like waiting on them to die back. Now, not all of them have flowered. I think probably because the temperatures got kind of cool the last few days. So there's still a few of them that need to flower, but just waiting on these to die back so we could dig them up. I did have one plant last week that I had to dig out. It like was lopped over, and then I pulled it out, and the potatoes underneath it were rotten. But I really think that something got to it. I don't think it's because of all the rain we had. So if you can see, I am walking on this garden, and it's not super like muddy, and so it drains well. So I don't think that it was like, well, I don't know the technical term for when you like pull the potatoes out when the plant hasn't died back yet, like when you dig under there and get a few. There's a word for that. I'll pop it up right here. But I have done that, and those weren't rotten, so I'm not worried about the rest of my potatoes, especially with as healthy as these plants look. But I mean, my potato patch is looking really good. If you guys have any favorite potatoes, let me know. I am really interested in growing all the potatoes. It's my kids' favorite food. It's my favorite food. My husband loves them. And so, well, my favorite food is tomatoes, but it's a different kind of favorite. Potatoes are so versatile. So if you have any of your favorite varieties, pop them down in the comments. I'd love to know, because I want to grow all the potatoes. Now down here we have I believe, I have to go back and look at my chart. But these are my gray striped zucchinis, if I'm correct, and they're looking really good. At my last property, trouble with vine borers, and of all the pests you can really control, a vine borer is not one of them. It's just one of those really unfortunate parts of gardening where if you get them, you're probably always going to have them. I have read that you can put foil around the stems of your squash plants, but I usually plant my squash in hopes that I'll get, you know, some fresh squash off of them, and if anything, I'll plant more after the borers have come and gone. But my plants have always been taken out by borers, and there's just about no, there's not much you can do. You can do stuff for aphids, you can do stuff for caterpillars, you can do stuff for hornworms, you can do stuff for, I don't know, just about any other kind of pest, garden pest. Squash bugs, I mean, you pick them off. Vine borers are something, they live in the ground, you can't see them. and they literally like drill holes and then lay their larvae in the stem of the plant. There's no way you can see that happening. There's no way you can know they're there until you have one of your plants lop over. And so if you're struggling with vine borers, I wish there was more encouragement that I could give you, but there's not. It's just one of those things that when they take your plants out, plant new ones, because the one thing about vine borers, I think if I'm correct, is that they have like one season. So once they've laid their larvae, they're kind of done for the year. So if they take your plants out, just plant some more. You should have plenty of time. Squash is such a quick crop. I put these seeds in the ground not too terribly long ago, and we had a cold snap, so they didn't germinate for a while. Then they germinated, and since they've germinated, they have like quadrupled in size. So over here I have my cabbage patch and my broccoli patch, and I am most excited about this broccoli because I have never successfully planted broccoli before, just because last fall, I knew last fall if I planted it I would be successful in it, but I did not have time. But they're getting really good, nice looking heads on them. They don't seem to be turning yellow or anything like that yet, so I'm keeping an eye out. We're gonna have a couple of really warm days here in a few days, but it's just gonna be like 2 days, and I'm hoping that that's not enough to make these bolt, and then it's gonna go back to cooler temperatures. But since the head is popped on here, they're growing really fast, and that is really exciting to me. It's just a testament that you should never give up. If there's something that you want to grow and you have been defeated, what a pretty bird. She's not gonna let me get a picture of her, but she's beautiful. If you have been defeated by trying over and over and over again, keep trying. It is worth it. Especially something like this. It took me 3 years to figure this out. 3 years. Imagine if I had given up. I would have never planted broccoli again. And it's so rewarding now because I know how hard that is to grow and how hard it is to get it right, and I did it. My cabbage is looking glorious. Now, along with broccoli, I have never had success with cabbage, and my grandpa would be really disappointed in me because he could grow some cabbage, you guys, and part of me wonders if he just cheated. Like if he bought, these are pre-started plants, but I bought really small ones. I wonder if my grandpa cheated. I'll never know because he's no longer with us, but I am very proud of these cabbages. Even if they don't head up, these are the most beautiful cabbages I have ever grown, and so to me that's really exciting. But this one, that leaf back there is the size of my face, and this one I think is for sure like putting a head on. Yeah, it is. So I mean, I'm doing good, you guys. Stuff that I've never successfully grown. I think a lot of it had to do with where I was in the space I had. And I knew that if I had a garden like this, that I could successfully grow these things. It was just a matter of where I was and the location of that garden and all of that stuff. And so you can only grow so much in 40 square feet of space. Now down here, I have some more squash plants. I'm not gonna waste any time on those. They're at the same rate the other ones were that I just showed you. And then over here I have some Kennebec potatoes. Now what I've noticed about these potatoes versus the red Norland is that the red Norland potatoes, the leaves and the foliage seems way more prolific than the Kennebec. Because these have pretty much stopped growing. I'm really just waiting on these to die back. These are still growing, but they're already flowering, and so the plants just aren't as lush and magnificent as the red Norland potatoes. But I have heard that Kennebec potatoes are one of the few like white varieties of potatoes that are worth growing. And so I'm excited to try them, and I think the first thing I'm gonna make with them is fried potatoes, because there's nothing like a pot of beans, cornbread, and some fresh fried potatoes. And so I'm really excited about these. I know it's going to be several more weeks before we can harvest them. On the sides of this trellis, I don't know if you can see all these little sprouts, but those are cucumbers. I had to re-sow this side, and so they're just now popping up. But there's one, there's a bunch right there. It looks like some of them got washed down because I did not plant 6 cucumbers down there. And then I had to re-sow on this trellis my melons because something came out here and ate my sprouts. So I'm waiting on those to pop up. Now, it's been cooler, and so I thought when I put those in the ground, they would germinate later. If I don't see them, you know, when the weather gets up to that 80 degrees we're supposed to have the next couple days, I'll plant some more, and maybe if that doesn't work, I'll put some green beans over here. I'm not going to waste my time trying to plant the same seeds that aren't germinating. I have 3 sprouts on the other side that did germinate, so I really think that something knows that there's something on that side of that trellis, and it's coming in here and getting it. And the only thing I can think of is a bird, because I have a really good fence around my garden, and the only thing that could get over it is something that can climb, so like a groundhog or a squirrel, or birds. Rabbits can't get over this fence. Large animals can't get over this fence. And the reason we put a fence up here is because we have an immense amount of deer, and deer can decimate a garden, and they can decimate it very quickly. Now right here, I have I think these are zinnias. I'm having a hard time telling them apart with my sunflowers. I know I'll be able to tell them apart when they get bigger, but I basically just alternated zinnias and sunflowers in my flower bed, and I'm gonna go back and sow some more sunflowers. I'm not a huge fan of this other type of flower that I planted. They just don't seem to be doing too hot, and my sunflowers and my zinnias are, and so I'd rather plant something that I know is gonna do well. So I'm gonna come back and sow some more, and then I'll have some succession sowing going on. But I'm really excited. I do believe that these right here are zinnias, just because of the way the leaves are shaped. This is a Titan sunflower. I went back and looked at my graph that I made, and it is about a foot tall now, so I'm really excited about that. I've got another one on the opposite side of this trellis, and the reason I think those are zinnias is because these leaves are a little more spread out, and they're a little more these are a little more tough and clustered together. Then over here I have my green beans. I really need to come in with some neem oil and spray these, but we've had so much rain that spraying anything on them would not have done any good. It would just rinse right off. Same over here. These are beans, green beans. They're finally starting to send out runners, so that's really exciting. They should be attaching to this trellis here soon. I think once they take a hold of it, this trellis is just going to be magnificent. We'll see. I'm really excited to find out. And then over here, I have my tomato patch. Is it called a patch when it's tomatoes? I don't really know. Let me, I don't like when they touch the ground like this. They're starting to put on, like, you can see the buds where the flowers are going to pop up, and so that's really exciting to me. I am ready for a good tomato, but I have noticed that, and I mentioned this in my last video, that people were complaining about leaf curl on tomatoes, and this one had it really bad. I remember specifically, and it is starting to straighten up. Hold out on your plants, you guys. I really do think it's just because of the weather we've had this spring, because these leaves are finally starting to look like tomato leaves. So don't give up just yet. Back behind these tomatoes, I actually planted radishes in that experiment with me video. You guys seen me do this, and they're looking pretty good. They're starting to put on true leaves. That one's kind of laid over, so that's got me a little worried, but they're looking good. And then my carrots germinated too. I've been doing lots of research on carrots, so those are all carrot seeds right there. And carrots are also one of those things that I have not successfully been able to grow. And like I said, I was in a very small garden before. I think I'll have the most success with a fall crop of carrots this year, which is exciting. But I planted those just to see if I could get through the summer with a handful of carrots, because I really like roasted fresh potatoes with carrots and beef, like roast beef. It's one of my favorite meals to cook too. I will probably actually do that recipe that I have in a video for you guys. Sounds really conceited, But when people ask me to cook things for like potlucks and stuff, they always ask me to cook a roast because they've had my roast before. And it's actually my mom's recipe. I altered it a little. Sorry, Mom. And it's so good. I use a Dutch oven. If you guys don't have a Dutch oven, get yourself one. It'll be one of the best investments you ever make. I don't have a crock pot. I have a little crock pot, but I have 10 people in my family, so you can imagine that I don't use it ever. I use my Dutch oven. My Dutch oven is my saving grace, so I would recommend that over an Instapot or a crock pot any day. Now down here, I planted these okra. There's 2 rows of okra here. They go all the way over. I planted Clemson Spineless and Texas Hill Country Red. So they just popped up and it's been kind of cool. So I was a little concerned that they wouldn't germinate with how cool it was, but they did. They popped right up. And over here I have my peppers. They look about the same as they did when I planted them in the ground. I have never had much luck with peppers as far as like mass amounts of production. Now my plants are always healthy, they always do produce, but I've never had like a bumper crop of peppers. I have had bumper crops of cucumbers, tomatoes, and squash and lettuce. So hopefully this is the year for peppers, because I planted a bunch of banana peppers and it's a family favorite of ours, especially like on sandwiches. So I hope I can get some good pepper harvest this year. Courtney from the future here. iMovie. If you're using iMovie and you can't figure out how to get more than a 15-minute clip, all you have to do is, instead of immediately uploading your video to YouTube, all you do is you download it to your video library on your phone, and then from your library, go to the YouTube app and then upload the video. That's all. I don't know why iMovie only allows the 15 minutes, but if you're trying to get around that, all you have to do is download it to your phone from iMovie. So, sorry I forgot to mention that in the garden, but there's that tidbit of information for you now. Well, guys, that about wraps up this garden tour. I'm really excited about the weeks to come. I feel like everything in this garden is really going to start coming to life in the next few weeks. And then I'm going to be in that overwhelmed, what am I going to do with all this food kind of state. I feel like everyone's gardens are a little bit behind this year. So if you are feeling like your cucumbers aren't where they were last year, they're not. Mine aren't. This time last year, my cucumbers were massive plants. And this year they're little teeny sprouts, and that's okay. We have had a very cool spring, abnormally cool in my opinion, abnormally wet. I mean, spring is supposed to be wet, but we have had a month and a half of just rain. And today the sun is shining, and so me and my daughter and my son are going to go to Tractor Supply, and we're going to go run some errands and have some fun while the sun is out. I think pretty much the rain is done. There might be a couple more days of rain, and then hopefully we start getting some summer temperatures, because I'm out here and it is June 3rd and I've got goosebumps because it's so chilly. So I don't know, it's just been a weird spring, you guys. So don't be dismayed if your gardens aren't where they were last year. I would even go as far to say don't be dismayed if you don't get as much out of your gardens this year, because I think it's going to be one of those years. But enjoy it anyways. Gardening is one of those special things where if you can do it, doesn't matter how much you get, it's always going to be rewarding when you pick something, be it a flower or a tomato, cucumber, lettuce. I came out here and picked like a cup of spinach yesterday, and I went inside and I was like, yeah, I picked some spinach, you guys. So I felt really good about it. Anyways, don't be dismayed. Enjoy your garden, even though it might not be the garden you expected it to be. It's still gonna be special. So that wraps up this video, guys. I will see you on the next one. Bye.